Hello, and thank you for spending time with me on Stars and Light, Sit with Warriors, the accompanying podcast for my YouTube channel, The Lyrans Movies. Today, we're going to do a podcast about the two Goddess Sakhmet videos on my channel. And today, we have my special guest, mentor, best friend, Dan Foster.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me.
Hey, so Dan, if you could tell us a little about yourself before we get started.
Oh shoot. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Let's say, I guess you can call me a spiritual advisor, a spiritual coach, a spiritual therapist of some sort, spellcaster. But a lot of the stuff I do, is at this point a combination of what we have in our modern times and bringing it forward to incorporate the ways of the past spiritualities, magics, energies, and such.
And you have deep, higher knowledge about the different gods and goddesses from all different aspects. Different.
Different cultures, different time periods, yes.
So, which is why I brought you on this podcast today because we will be talking about the goddess Sakhmet herself. Okay, so to begin, I want to go over the myth that is typically out there about the goddess Sakhmet, in case this is, the first time you've encountered my channel, the information here. The goddess Sakhmet is an ancient Egyptian warrior goddess deity. She's known for the myth of when the god Ra was unhappy with humanity down on earth. So it was said in this myth that he plucked out his eye, which became the goddess Sakhmet, and which is also why she's called the Eye of Ra in some areas. And he sent her down to earth to punish humanity. And she waged a huge slaughter upon humanity to the point where the god Ra felt like, okay, maybe this was not a good idea. So, in order to stop this rampage, as they typically call this, he had his priests and priestess create a combination of pomegranate juice and beer to resemble blood. And they say when she saw it, she began drinking it. And when she drank so much of it, the beer put her to sleep, which ended the rampage. So that's the myth, the main myth about the goddess Sakhmet. She's known as the goddess of destruction, and on the opposite end of that, the goddess of healing. There's so much to this myth that I'd like to dispel, which I believe I touched on the subject in one or both of my videos about the goddess. So, what is your take on this mythology?
Well, it's just that it's mythology. I mean, how much of it came from word of mouth? How much of it has been discovered in archaeological processes? And then on a spiritual level, how much of that information has been channeled? So we can go into different aspects of that, but the myth itself is just giving one area of who Sekhmet is or was. But in reality, and this goes with any other entity or deity that you work with, they can work in all areas. Okay. So they just don't have to be stuck within just a goddess of destruction or a goddess of healing. Because I mean that is why certain areas and cultures they will have a deity that can incorporate everything.
Okay, and what just came to mind is let's rewind it a little bit and talk to everyone about what exactly is a god and goddess. From because typically from a mundane perspective, a god or goddess is, let's say in a traditional Christian point of view, someone very up high, untouchable, and perfect, all being, all knowing. And I feel like one of the topics, one of the subjects that we broach on in this channel is the concept of the deity being more a being rather than someone that's just worshiped. And then fundamentally, what I learned from you, what you taught me, is that gods and goddesses are actually not so much deities, but fifth dimensional being, fourth dimension,
Yeah,
fourth and
fourth
fifth.
dimensional.
I thought they were fifth.
So yeah, okay. So that's when we start talking about extraterrestrials and interdimensional type stuff. But yeah, I mean, gods and goddesses, we see them as, these spirits that are all powerful and magical, all knowing of all knowledge. of all aspects of the universe, anything and everything to do with time and space. They are absolutely everything. But what if they're not? What if they are extraterrestrial? That's when we can go all the way deep down into that theory.
Right, which I think will be mind bending for the majority of the people who walk around. But for those ready for this information, ready to receive this information or have been seeking it, it'll be confirmation and also mind blowing because we're taught, especially if you came from a Christian background, meaning believing in Christ, so that could be Catholic, Christian, what have you, Baptists. We're taught
Yeah, it's
that,
a monotheistic, religion.
yes, we're taught that they are, there's a very big tone of hellfire and brimstone.
Yeah.
And that's just my experience. It's just not what it's like.
No,
Right.
it's never. It can feel that way when you're just starting into any type of spirituality or religion. I mean, you're stuck on a level of worship, and then that's just what it leaves you. It leaves you stuck. It leaves you, encased.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually you will get to a point, depending on how much work you put into it, you get to the point where it's not a realm of worship anymore. It is a working between two individuals, between two souls, two spirits. That's the
Agreed.
best thing I can really call it. There's a mutual respect, and that way it's a much more of a massive growth, and you get to learn and experience so much more, because staying in a worship area, that's just a lot of give me this, give me that, show me this, show me that. There's no working towards your betterment.
Yes. I feel like once people start, or once a god or goddess start working with someone, I feel like they're going to really understand that it's a co-creation of one's journey more than in a monotheistic sense. Like that is like carrying out what we were told that they want, that the single deity wants, as opposed to in this way in spirituality, it's a co-creation of this current journey that we're on because we are spirits having a human experience, not a human having a spiritual experience. Okay, so in terms of the goddess Sakhmet, I feel like one of the reasons I'm so passionate about her, in addition to all the other things that, that is evident in my channel, is like for me, I just feel like the goddess Sakhmet is an ancient Egyptian deity. And before we got on to the podcast, I had listed it in a video, but I didn't have time to go back and list it again, but I found it somewhere else, so I wrote it down. We have this female ancient Egyptian deity that is found in so many temples up and down the Nile. And I'll read them to you. The Temple of Ptah at Memphis. Well, the creator god Ptah is her husband. I don't want to say consort, is her husband. Heliopolis, Temple of Seti at Abydos, Temple of Karnak, Temple of Mut, Temple of Luxor, the mortuary temple of Ramesses III, mortuary temple of Hatshepsut, the temple of Hathor at Dendera, temple of Edfu, temple of Komombo, temple at Philae complex. And then far south in Namibia, temple of Kalabsha, dedicated to Mundulus. I mean, that's quite a list. So we have this deity who has a major presence in ancient Egyptian times up and down the Nile, being commemorated in some way. And but in modern times, she's not very well known. I feel like in a lot of ways, she's been erased from memory. And so I'm a very curious person. I thought to myself, okay, why is she being erased? What was the motivation? What could it be? I tell a lot of secrets on my videos, higher knowledge that it took me years to be able to receive, but I put it in these videos within minutes. But there are other discoveries, other secrets I haven't put yet. But so those questions were going in my mind, and part of the goal of my channel is to reinsert the information about the goddess Sakhmet into the collective memory once again, because for me, I just feel like someone with that much presence in rulers' lives, and I'm going to assume the people's lives, how is she not a commonly well-known deity? I feel like this is my suspicion. And then tell me what you think, Dan. I feel like the nature of the goddess Sakhmet is that she is very supportive and encouraging and has a warrior spirit and fire. Like she backed whoever sought her counsel, who sought her protection. And that was a lot of the pharaohs back in the day. And so the pharaohs, as we know, they considered themselves partly divine, right? So of course they would seek her out, and that's why she was present in her support for whatever their goals were, the battles, the conquests and such. As humanity, not the ruler so much, as humanity rose, I feel like she kind of fell out from memory, or was, and we know this, was blended into other deities, but essentially erased. But I feel like it was, in a way, because the humanity was turning more toward a patriarchal society, and we have here a female warrior goddess who is very much for female power. I feel like they started getting uncomfortable. Like, okay, we want our women to be more subdued, and this type of energy is not suitable for what we want now. And I think that's when they started erasing her.
That's definitely a concept that we can talk about because if we look at it from a much older standpoint, you'll find it within tribes also, different tribes. Feminine energy, a female leader. She was known as the keeper of knowledge. Okay. Women are the keepers of knowledge. The role of men were to be the protectors of knowledge. Now it's sort of reversed for some reason. But that's, like we said, that's a patriarchal thing. That's where, you start to see things like, certain religions are only male priests in certain parts. But we have to look at, Sekhmet now. What was Sekhmet's actual role? Okay, and it's a lot, and you pretty much hit the nail on the head. She is, a consult. She is a minister. She is the one that you seek guidance from. She is a leader, a general. She's an advisor. Okay. And that's what she is. So a lot of the temples that you like mentioned, what is going on at those temples at the time? What is being shown in those hieroglyphs that we see that are still around? There is much more to her. So could she be even considered, like Diana, a goddess of knowledge? Because we have to remember, during this time period, these beings, these entities, they were all around the world. So they can be in different cultures. They're just going to have different names, but you'll notice they'll have similar stories of how they came to be. So I think at this point, she is an epitome of what the female energy was and what should be a keeper of knowledge, a keeper of higher knowledge. And that is the type of energy I think she's bringing about into this world at this point, into this society, because right now this society is in a massive purge, a massive awakening. Eyes are being opened left and right, and it's on a worldwide level. It's not just within one particular country. It's become massive. So I feel like this is what her energy, her frequency is starting to bring up.
I would have to agree. You can feel the change in the air ever since Pluto went into Aquarius. I wonder if that was the opening, the gateway. I'm feeling this. So yeah, that's one of the things that's always on my mind when I think of her, and also irks me because it's like it just doesn't. track. I mean, she's in so many temples, yet all we know, or all we're told of her, is that she went on this bloodthirsty rampage as if she had no control over herself.
Yeah.
That's so, oh, that's what I wanted to touch on. And you touched on it as well. You know, there are oral traditions,
Mhm.
especially in ancient cultures. And if you've ever played the telephone game, you'll know that things get mixed up within three people. Within 2 to 3 people, the message is already mixed up. And like twofold in the mythology, I feel like it was already information being jumbled. And then second, I feel like it was character assassination.
I don't want to call it character assassination. I think there's been so much that's been wiped out that that's the only information that they have.
Well,
So I don't want to call it full on assassination yet, but compared to others, but because there's so much that is gone from her in an archaeological scientific area that it is, it's so minimal. But yeah, is there an assassination attempt on any form of goddess and goddess worship and the way things used to be? Of course. Of course.
yes, anything pagan, anything non-Christian being taken down, or non-monotheistic, I'll say that.
You just talk about even the snake, the symbolism of the snake. The symbolism, it's like the original form of goddess worship and the ways the shedding occurs of the skin. It's the same way that happens with women's menstrual cycle. There's so much knowledge involved and growth involved, and it happens within the woman, within female energy. But what do? You make the snake of something appear evil.
Of course. In a patriarchal society.
Yes,
And
a
and don't get
society of
me
fear.
and don't get me wrong, I don't dislike men, obviously. I mean,
Yeah.
I have Dan on here. I'm just saying the energy of that patriarchy that aims to suppress and oppress female empowerment. But what I meant about character assassination is that it's like I'm willing to bet. I mean, in fact, I'm sure of it. She did so much good in ancient times, and there's more to her that we haven't even scratched the surface yet. I don't know if I'll do those videos. It'll depend. I'll see if I'm led to. But she did so much good in being there for humanity and helping shape early humanity. And then as this human patriarchy was ascending, they're like, stop teaching our females to be so powerful. We want them subdued. So what better way in generations to come to assassinate one's character than to make her look like a crazed, uncontrollable female, can't rely on,
Mhm.
she needs beer to go to sleep. Like, to me, that's essential crushing and oppression of a sacred feminine's energy, story,
Yeah,
and legacy.
I totally agree. I agree on that one.
Thank you. And that's one of the reasons why I love doing these videos. It's because we can get that information out there. And I truly believe like the videos of the goddess, the information that she loves humanity and that the god Ra loves humanity. I feel like those videos, the messages in there are getting injected into the internet space, which is like a digital representation of collective consciousness, right? Because we're all in here watching, we're all in there together. And just having that information, that truth take root in there, I feel like what you said, the energy is changing.
Mhm.
And I love the goddess. If any of you, by the way, are interested because you've been watching these videos, by the way, I'm so thankful for you. I see the stats and I get very excited. If any of you are interested in knowing more about how to connect it to the goddess for her to be a guide in your life, you're welcome to contact Dan or I, and we'd be happy to help you. Just comment below. And then, Dan,
Mhm.
for regarding the goddess Sakhmet, what would you say is like, what is a key takeaway that you'd like the viewers to have about her?
The only information that I'm getting from this will wake up your common sense. That's it. Because you talk to anything or any being or person who's been an advisor and consultant, a lot of them will tell you common sense is and basic thought and understanding is the best foundation that you can have in anything that you put into your life. If you do not have common sense or take the time to get all information, both truth and lie, then your foundation is very weak.
It's a very good message. And I hear that, I get it. It's like, forget what all the talking heads are saying all over the world, especially at this time. You know, if you feel it's wrong, it's wrong. No matter what anyone says, no matter how much they make or what they own. If it's wrong, it's wrong.
Yeah, it's utilize your common sense.
Mhm. Have the courage to stand in your own sense.
Mhm.
Yeah, like don't go with the crowd. I'm always
Don't be of a sheep mentality right now.
more like,
Use your common sense and intuition to know what is right and wrong and truth and lie. Get all the information, all of it, even if it's the dumbest thing that you've ever heard. Get it, and then piece it all together. And your common sense and intuition will help you decipher.
those are wise words, sir. Thank you very much. So that concludes today's podcast about the goddess Sakhmet. Thank you for hanging with Dan and I. Make sure to check out
Thank you.
make sure to check out my latest video, A Day in the Life on the Lyran Homeworld, or one of my first videos, The Lyran Homeworld. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, like, comment. It really helps keep the channel going. And just know that I'm very grateful and I appreciate you every day. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
See you next time.